Hello, everyone. Welcome to At Risk International's weekly insight briefing. I am Roman Fisher, Protective Intelligence Analyst with the Global Risk Intelligence team, joined today by Ross Hill, Director of Intelligence. Getting started for you today. Extremist groups are now favoring local election intimidation efforts focused on neighborhood ballot boxes. Social media content reveals that extremists have called supporters to, quote, capture your local county, then several of them, then maybe your state, end quote. Members of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers are reportedly seeking to affect the upcoming midterm elections by signing up as poll workers. In Miami, a member of the Proud Boys and poll worker was quoted saying, "We need to be at every polling station this November and have eyes and truth-telling patriots monitoring on the ground," end quote. Threats and harassment of public officials is on the rise in the U.S. More than 400 cases have been reported between January 2020 and September of this year, and 35% involve threats or harassment of election officials. According to an FBI analysis, threats are more frequent in states with contested election results and where election denial activism persists. As a result, many election offices are taking precautions, including installing bulletproof glass, increasing security, and conducting active shooter training. Finally, the rising threats are causing a shortage of election workers, a staffing shortage that extremists could potentially exploit. And now I will pass you on to Ross Hill.
Thanks, Roman. Also happening this week is the UN's annual climate change summit, COP27, taking place in Egypt this year. At the opening of that, we had some pretty stark warnings over climate change. The Earth's temperature over the past 8 years were all the hottest on record. Sea levels are rising twice as fast as 30 years ago. And it's now assessed as pretty unlikely that we'll be able to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius that was agreed at the Paris Climate Conference a few years ago. So this week, definitely an increased likelihood of climate-related protests and property damage while the conference is taking place. Already seen today, protesters blocking major roads in the UK, and also some protesters blocking private jets at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. But climate-related protests likely in other locations through the week. Protests becoming more elaborate generally, targeting museums, artwork, luxury brands, that kind of thing. But the main risk really is that for some activists, climate change is now becoming an existential threat. And that threat's actually supported by the mainstream scientific research. So in the scenario where climate change targets are not met and the world continues to warm, we will see increasing number of extreme weather events, and then there'll be more frequent competition for resources, increased political instability, increased risk of conflict, that type of thing. And as that occurs, some activists will increasingly see institutions like governments and businesses unwilling or unable to address climate change. And for those that are a bit more radical, the only response to that is going to be increasing levels of violence. Thanks for joining us this week. We hope you found the information useful, and we hope to see you again soon.